Hello, everyone. Welcome to a slightly different podcast episode. This week it's a bonus episode. Myself and Heidi will be back in a couple of weeks with all the usual fun and features and information all about weddings, our favourite topic. But we thought we'd have a little break from the norm, and it's just me on my own today. So hopefully that doesn't put you off. I can assure you Heidi will be back with all her fun and laughter that she brings in the rest of the series. But I'm going to talk to you today to share some wedding tips from my wedding planning book. Now, those of you that don't know, this podcast is based on my book, which is called How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are. And originally, about 56 episodes ago, I started this podcast and named it the same thing. So if you go back in time and listen to old episodes, you'll hear me garble on about Welcome to How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are. It's a great title for a book because it does exactly what it says on the cover, but it's a little bit wordy and lengthy for a podcast. So it later became Your Individual Wedding. But the purpose of the book and the podcast is to help everyone, and I mean everyone, plan a wedding that is truly unique to them, that resonates with their values and who they are, and isn't heavily influenced by trying to please other people or by to societal pressure to look or act a certain way. Obviously, as a gay man myself, I came at it from an LGBTQ angle, but I'm also aware in our wedding industry, it's quite slow to embrace change and celebrate diversity. So couples of different faiths, ethnicities, ages, body shapes, they can all go to a wedding fair, look at Pinterest, look at wedding magazines, and not see themselves fairly represented. It's still a very narrow depiction in the wedding industry of what couples look like. And we all know that couples come in all shapes and sizes and are all truly deserving of a wonderful wedding. So that's where the book came from. So I made sure when I was writing the book that anyone could relate to it, and these tips weren't just for people from a certain demographic, and that's really important, and that's what we still aim to do in this podcast. So all I'm going to do this episode is take you through the book and share my top 10 tips for planning a wedding. And what I'd love for you to do is to get in touch either via Instagram, your_individual_wedding, or at Ross Wilshire Photography, Glorious by Heidi, or go and comment on Apple Podcasts and write a comment under our show and share your own tips. Whether you're getting married, you've just been married, you've been married a long time, whoever you are listening, it's great to hear from you and to share some of your tips from people who've been there and done it or are experiencing it now. So we really want to up the interaction on the podcast, and we really value your input. So please do get in touch. We will be back with some big day balls up, some proposal stories, some fantastic guests that we've got lined up. But today it's just yours truly having a flick through of my wedding planning book to help you plan your perfect wedding. Right, so the first thing I really wanted to talk to you about is that element of feeling in control and taking control of your wedding plans. And I think with all weddings, as soon as you tell friends and family that you're getting married, they're all excited for you, they want to help you plan, and it can become a little overwhelming. It can feel like other people are taking control or telling you what to do, and that can take some of the fun and enjoyment out of wedding planning. But also, as you know, we're living in really strange, stressful times at the moment, and so many wonderful couples have had to cancel and postpone or alter their wedding plans. So I think one of the biggest tips I can give to you if you're planning a wedding is to focus on the factors that you can control. Okay, and that's really useful in general. So take, for example, the current situation. We can't control when restrictions are going to be lifted. At the moment, we can't control guest numbers, but you can plan and prepare for different eventualities. So it might be worth having your list of 15 guests, your list of 30 guests, your list of 50 guests, 100 guests, doing that now so that if the time comes and things change for better or for worse, you've already planned that. You're not having to do that at the last minute. You know which guests you're going to ask to step in and come along, or which guests you're going to have to regrettably ask to stay away and join in for another celebration further down the line. So really do what you can to plan and prepare for things that you can't actually control yourself. In normal times, that could be something as simple as the weather. So we don't know, you could be getting married in the middle of July and August and assume it's going to be beautifully sunny, and it could be torrential rain. So again, make sure you just control what you can control. You can control bringing umbrellas in case you need to go out and about and you don't want to get wet. You can control what you wear, or any layers that you want to add on. You can control having a venue and a photographer that's really suited to indoor photography, and where's really good for indoor photos at your venue. So although we can't control things like the weather, there's lots that we can do to prepare for every eventuality. So right now, you'll be wondering, you might be feeling quite dismayed or disheartened, but actually have a little look at all the things you can control. Even your emotions you can control. If you're getting stressed, you can choose to walk away from your wedding emails. You can choose to do something totally different from wedding planning. You can turn off your social media. You can choose to do some meditation to chill out. So whilst I know a lot of you are feeling out of control at the moment, just focus on those small elements in your life that you can control, and that will have such an empowering impact as you move forward and continue to plan your wedding. What I always say to people planning their wedding as well is to focus on you and have a wedding that reflects you. So start with your values, start with your priorities, start with your lists of what you like and what you don't like. Discuss it together, hash out any discrepancies, any disagreements, find a compromise, and don't really start talking to suppliers, visiting venues, attending wedding fairs until you have a rough idea of what you do and don't want from your wedding. Now, of course, you're going to look online, you're going to meet suppliers, and you're going to realize there's so many things that you can buy or services you can have that you've never even thought of before. And obviously, that's going to change some of your plans, and you're going to want to implement them on your day. But you're also going to see so many conflicting ideas, so much choice that it can be overwhelming. So if you get in that mindset of knowing what you do and don't like and what works for both of you, it's a little bit easier to turn off that noise and that constant barrage of you should be doing this, you can have this, what about this, have you thought about this? So try and come up with your own must-have lists or must-not-have lists instead of being dictated to by all those blog posts, which I hate, that really put pressure on you to have certain wedding photos, certain outfits, certain first dance songs. Take them all with a pinch of salt. Don't be dictated to by social media and by blogs, or by friends and family. Have a really strong sense of who you are. So I know it's exciting. Once you've got engaged, you've got that ring on your finger, you just want to head straight in, search all those hashtags, and get stuck into wedding planning, which of course you would want to. And I totally get that. But just step back and relax and just enjoy being engaged. That period of knowing that you're going to spend the rest of your life together, reliving that engagement, that's a really wonderful period in life. So, it doesn't have to instantly lead to manic wedding planning, and it can be really beneficial to just breathe and relax and just ease into wedding planning really, really gently. Another really good tip, if you're likely to get a little bit stressed and you know that things can become overwhelming, is to start to delegate some of the wedding planning tasks. You might want to pay someone, so you might want a wedding planner or a wedding coordinator. And we've talked a lot on this podcast to, planners, organisers. So go back and have a listen to Lorna Reeves, to Siobhan Craven Robbins, to Nina from Occasion Queens. They're all people that you can hire to help plan aspects of your day. So if you think you really need a lot of help, then that's a really good recommendation. But it might be that you just want your friends and family to chip in. And again, just be really, really clear with what you expect from them, what you don't want them to do, any deadlines, and just keep that communication really clear and really open, and play to people's strengths. That's really important. So don't randomly assign tasks to people who might not enjoy doing that aspect of wedding planning, who might feel too much pressure or don't have time themselves. So try and delegate firstly to people who offer or who you know are going to want to help, and also to people who know you and know you really well. So it's no good sending somebody off, I don't know, to go to a wedding fair because you're working that day and they find a photographer they love because the photographer's really funny, got the same sense of humour, a florist that's really brilliant because they love their artificial flowers, and actually that's not what you're looking for. So when you're delegating, make sure people understand what your vision is for your wedding, and that they respect that. And it's always great to have a second opinion, but delegating is a really good way to keep those stress levels down, to get other people involved in your wedding day and get some guidance and advice. But there's still a way of doing it without losing that sense of what you're after and what you want. And work together. I think the weddings that I photographed, where it's been the least stressful, where the couples have been the most relaxed, where everything was really plain sailing, is when both partners were equally involved in the planning, because they both knew what to expect, they could both troubleshoot. It meant as much to both of them because they both put as much of themselves in it. So wherever possible, do work together on your wedding, which might sound really obvious to you if you're listening, but it's not to everyone. So I think that's a really, really important tip. Another thing I wanted to share was just about being yourself and being really open and honest about who you are. And that might sound a bit woolly, a bit new age, a bit really cheesy, but it's really easy to get swept or lost into somebody else's branding or somebody else's idea of what you should be or who you should be. Especially if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, don't tone down who you are. Be really open and honest, because you're going to want to work with suppliers who get you, who understand you, who want you to be yourself, who make you feel comfortable. So right from the word go, I think it's important not to bend or twist or shape or try and be someone that you're not. And again, that sounds obvious, but it's surprising with weddings how quickly people seem to try and shift into who they think they should be on their wedding day and not stay true to who they are. I get lots of couples wanting to postpone pre-wedding shoots or put back the date of their pre-wedding shoot till they've lost a bit of weight. And I can understand that people want to look their best, but actually, it's about being you and celebrating you. Your partner wants to be with you for who you are, exactly as you are. So you don't need to change for one day. It's really important to embrace yourself, embrace how loved you are. If you're getting married, somebody loves you unconditionally, and that's what you should be focusing on, not trying to slim down or to try and look like the brides on the front of a magazine that you've seen. Really stay true to you. That's super, super, super important. And that's at the heart of this podcast, and it's at the heart of my book as well. So if I hear or see any of my couples trying to drastically change or diet or fit the mold that they've seen, then I get rather cross, and I make sure that they go back to themselves and have a real think about why they are feeling pressured to shift or change any elements of their wedding day. It's your wedding day, so do everything in relation to what you want, what makes you happy, what makes you smile, what would be most memorable and meaningful to you. A good tip for when finding suppliers is to look beyond the branding. Okay, so a nice logo is great. A professional website is, of course, wonderful. Reading what they say, how they work, that's really, really important. But it's very easy for anyone to hide behind a logo, a lovely photograph, and some good copy on a website. Really important that you talk to your suppliers. At the moment, that's usually Zoom or online, ideally face to face, but you can't replace those feelings of talking to somebody in person or seeing them and getting to know them face to face. It's really important for the supplier as well. They want to know that they get on with you and they relate to you. So look beyond the branding. Who is that person? What are their values? When you're speaking to them, do you feel comfortable with them? Can you be honest? Can you say to your photographer, I'm a bit self-conscious about my hips or my bum or my tum. What can we do about this? Can you say to your cake maker that you're really fussy when it comes to flavors, or that you've got lots of allergens, or you should be able to feel that you can communicate any worries or anxieties with your supplier, and you're not going to know that just by looking at a website. And a good supplier will always want to meet you first. Okay, so those consultations, and I know a lot of suppliers don't call them consultations, they might call them an informal chat or a coffee or whatever they call it. It's really important to have those conversations and get to know your suppliers before you hand any money over. I think a really good tip for people who are likely to get stressed is to factor in a few things in the run up and on your wedding day. Factor in breathing times. So a lot of guests always say take some time on your wedding day for yourselves as a couple. 5 or 10 minutes where you can just have some quiet, take it all in, watch your guests having fun, have a moment to yourself, embrace all the emotions that you're feeling. And that's super important to all couples, especially those that are a bit anxious, that get a bit caught up in their head, that overthink, that feel a bit stressed, that don't like people looking at them and being the center of attention. Factor in those times, plan times, whether it's just before you sit down and have your wedding breakfast, whether it's just after the ceremony, whether it's just after you've had your photos with your photographer. Just factor in bits of time where you can just take a breather. I think that's super, super important. But that's also true when you're planning your wedding. You can get so caught up in wedding planning that you lose all sense of perspective. So it's really important to take time away from your wedding planning. Okay, so delve into a box set. Set aside a weekend where you don't discuss the wedding. Okay, take 5 minutes every day just to meditate and to chill out. Make sure all your wedding emails are on a separate email address so that they're not interrupting work emails or personal emails from friends, and you can decide when to dip into that email account and do some wedmin, and when to switch off from that and just step away. Take a little bit more control about when you're contacting your suppliers and when you're wanting to hear back from them. That's super, super important. So we talk a lot about feeling stressed on the day, but there can be a lot of stress in the weeks before, in the months before. And I think perspective is really, really important. So one of the tips I always talk about in my book, and I've shared with so many people, is about planning things for beyond your wedding day. So we love weddings. Obviously, that's why we're in the job we're in. I love photographing weddings. There's nothing more I love shooting. But it's one day. Yes, it's an amazing day. It will hopefully be one of the best days of your life, but it's actually the start of your adventure. It's the start of your journey, and you've got a lifetime of being married beyond that. So don't build up to this one climatic day and then have a sense of anticlimax or deflation afterwards. Write down plans for that first year of marriage. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Do you want to go on holiday together to somewhere you've never been? Do you want to have friends over and have a dinner party once a week? Is there a course you want to do together? Are there things you want to do on your own? You don't have to do every single thing together as a married couple, but just look beyond that wedding day, make some plans, write them down. I always say stick it on your fridge or somewhere where you pass by all the time. And if you are getting stressed about the minutest of details of your wedding, or something isn't going quite right, just take a look at your plans for the future and get some perspective, because wedding planning becomes a huge project management task, and it's about this end result when actually it's also about planning for the rest of your life. And I think once you've got that perspective, some of those decisions which seem really, really big at the time actually become a lot smaller and a lot more manageable as well. I've said this before in a recent episode when we were talking all about wedding photography, but it's really important to find a wedding photographer, A, that you feel comfortable with and you can chat to, and B, whose work you can identify with. So just be careful if you're looking online at a wedding photographer's work. Is their work brilliant because of their technique, because of their ability to light people and frame people and put together an image? Or do they just have classically beautiful people on their website? So it's very easy for amateur photographers to take a decent photo of a stunningly beautiful couple. That's fine. But it takes a bit more skill, a bit more patience, it takes a bit more understanding to photograph people of all backgrounds and shapes and sizes and demographics. So just check that when you look at a wedding portfolio, can you see couples similar to you? Could you see yourself in that photo, laughing like that, standing in that position, wearing similar outfits? I'm not saying you have to look for someone that's got your exact outfit on, but have they got a similar style or feel to how your day's going? And that counts for your venue as well. Are all the wedding photos taken, outdoors in a barn, very rustic, and actually you're having quite an urban city wedding? Look at all those things. Don't just look at how many awards they've won, or how much you might love the photos. Also think about whether you can really, really see those photos being on your wall and looking back at them for years to come. So that's just a quick tip. I could talk forever about photography, but again, go back a couple of episodes and you can listen to me garble on all about wedding photography for a good 40 minutes. Now, obviously, at the moment, wedding fairs aren't happening, and if they are, they're online. But I dedicated a whole chapter to surviving a wedding fair, and that's what I called it, surviving a wedding fair, which sounds quite negative. And don't get me wrong, wedding fairs can be wonderful, and I've met incredible clients at wedding fairs and had really, really good times there. But they can be quite overwhelming, they can be quite stressful. So when you're going to a wedding fair, there's a few things you can do to enhance your experience. Firstly, research the wedding fair. So check it's going to have the type of vendors that you are looking for. Okay, and usually you'll be able to look up the exact vendors that are going to be there and maybe make a list, pop onto their website, have a little look and decide which ones you might want to prioritize talking to when you get there. When you do get there, do not feel like you have to talk to every single supplier, especially if you're at a large wedding fair. That is such a unrealistic and daunting task. So just walk around in general without talking to anyone first. Get a feel of the flow of the day, where everything is. Have a look, is there certain stands that are creating a buzz that you're quite intrigued to go and find out about? Are there others that you're not drawn to for whatever reason? Just get a little feel, settle yourself in. You don't have to go hard and fast into asking all these urgent questions and picking up leaflets, etc. Take your time. When you are ready to talk to suppliers, firstly, look at their body language. I am amazed how many suppliers spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds to exhibit at a wedding fair only for them to sit behind a table, look miserable, and scroll on their screen for 5 hours. That is not a good sign. If somebody does not have the energy and the interest to stand up and engage with people as they're walking past, they will not have the time, the energy, or the inclination to put 100% into their services for your wedding. So that's a really, really quick and easy way of crossing off potential suppliers, is by their body language and what they're doing at their stand or their stall. Also, when you're chatting to suppliers, ask a few questions, get to know them, but remember this isn't a consultation. So there are going to be other couples that want to talk to that supplier. So you don't have to give them your life history. You don't have to ask every single question that's in your head. Again, just get a feel. Can you build up a rapport with them quite quickly? Do you feel comfortable with them? Would you like to contact them again and book a more in-depth consultation? So it's just a quick 5-10 minutes chat with the vendors that you're interested in, and the idea is to get an idea of who you want to speak to in more detail at a later date. There will be on the day offers. There will be people trying to get you to book on the day. I tend not to encourage this because your wedding is super special. Do not book a supplier on the spot because you can save 100 quid, because in years to come you are not going to remember that saving of 100 quid. You're going to remember how good or not their service was. So if they're really passionate about what they do and they really want to work with you, they will be happy to speak to you at a later date in more detail before you secure the deal. So do not feel pressure at all to sign up or agree to anything on the day. It's a really good idea to take somebody else with you, because you can sort of bounce ideas and kind of say, was it just me, or did they seem a bit bossy, or was it me, or did they seem a bit pushy, or I really like them, what do you think? So if you can't go with your partner, which is ideal but it's not always possible, again, go with somebody who knows you and knows what you're looking for. And you might want to split up at times if there's loads and loads of suppliers there, and that can be a really good trick if you're stuck with a supplier and you can't get away from them. So if you're talking to Bob the DJ and he's giving you his top 50 countdown of his favourite 70s disco classics that he can play at your wedding, just suddenly say, I've got to go and find my friend, I think they're lost, really nice to meet you, I'll be in touch, and you can scoot away and escape. That's a really, really good trick, because there will be suppliers there that will corner you. Okay, so wedding fairs can be really good fun, really, really useful, but just be careful, don't get too overwhelmed, and don't feel pressure to make a purchase on the spot. And finally, in my book, I talk a little bit about what to do after the wedding, which seems a bit alien, but it is still part of wedding planning. So once you've got married, I think it's really important to schedule some alone time. So if you're not jetting off on honeymoon for whatever reason, just make sure you've got a few days off together afterwards. One, you're going to be quite tired. Two, it's nice to just bask in that newlywed glow and enjoy that feeling of being married, and just get some rest and recuperation, even if it's just pizza and Netflix. Just do something, just the two of you, to give you time to get back into normal life and get your head around everything that's happened and relive your favourite moments. Also, take time to thank everyone that helped make your day special. and make it personal. So don't send a blanket email or a pre-printed card. Do take a little bit of time to thank people specifically for whatever it was that they helped you with. So again, it might just be that they showed up, bought you a present. Great. Thank them for buying that present, why it's useful, why it means a lot to you. Somebody might have come early and helped get you in your dress. Fine. Send them a personal message and thank them for doing that specific task. And if you want to do the same with your suppliers, they would really, really appreciate hearing from you after the wedding. And when it comes to suppliers, write reviews. Okay, so one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I usually do, and I have in previous episodes, is reviews are really, really useful because you can read between the lines. You can see what other couples experienced with that supplier once they'd paid their money. What sort of service did they get? It's all very well for a supplier to promise you the world and to read on their website how wonderful they are, but obviously they're trying to book you. They're trying to secure your services and your money. Reviews tell you what happens after you've made that transaction. And I think if you've relied on reviews to find your suppliers, it's only right that you should then write a review to help other couples find the right supplier and to help your supplier know what their strengths are or where they could improve. I know with my reviews there's common phrases, so a lot of people talk about how I made them feel, how they felt stress-free, how there wasn't loads of laborious posing, how I was calm on the day, and that comes up repeatedly, which is great because I know what I'm intending to bring to a wedding, I do bring to a wedding. So take a bit of time to write a review after the wedding. And then go back to that list that you wrote. What are those things you're going to do this year? What courses are you going to go on? What holidays are you going to plan? What are you going to learn together? Who's going to be the first friends you have round for dinner as a married couple? Start looking forward, okay? So try to avoid those feelings of anticlimax and nothing to look forward to. Remember, that's the start of your journey. Your wedding day is the start. It's exciting. That whole adventure starts now. So those were just some tips from my book. Don't forget, it's called How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are. It's by me, Ross Wilshire, and it's available on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon, you can either type in Ross Wilshire or How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are, and you can buy your copy for £10. Really proud of this book. It really is intended for all couples from all walks of life. There's so many tips in here that I haven't even shared with you. I'd be here all day if I did. It's simple, easy to read. Again, going back to reviews, I've been so overwhelmed with the response and the reviews I've had from this. So if you are struggling with your wedding planning, or if you know someone who is, has just got engaged, needs a bit of help, then do go and grab a copy of this book. It's what started the whole podcast. We're 56 episodes in. We've got lots more planned, and it's all due to this little book. So thank you so much for listening. As I said, business as usual next time with Heidi. Lots of balls ups and proposal stories and wedding information. Hope you've enjoyed listening to just me. It's taken 56 episodes, but I eventually did one all on my own. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.